Welcome to the Venture Vault. I'm Michael Benatar, and today I'm very, very excited to talk to Brian Colburn. He's an acclaimed online coach and a trusted partner in the fast-paced world of content creation. How you doing, Brian?
I am excellent. Thank you for having me here today.
I'm excited. So I feel like we have the same passions. We love online stuff, creation, podcasting. It seems like a little bit of radio. And I saw that you made a podcast in 2008. I was actually at the time doing radio in college. I was on a morning show out in Tampa, and I remember back then there was only really one person kind of doing podcasts, and I think that was Leo Laporte and like the Twitch guys or Twit guys and Bill Simmons. And that was kind of like what I knew. And, like Dig Nation and Kevin Rose and all that stuff. And that's what I love so much about it. It was like this nerdy group of people that were just doing stuff online. How and when did you kind of get into it, into the podcasting world, I guess?
I was a web developer, and I was hired by a Masonic lodge to bring an online presence to them, and was asked if I knew anything about podcasting because I was a web developer.
Yeah.
So of course I said yes, and quickly learned everything there was to learn about podcasting.
Sure.
And produced, it was a very short-lived show. However, one thing I did, I forget the name of the site. It's some National Archives site. I uploaded episode number 1 to it. Something told me back then, I want proof that this thing existed.
For sure.
And you're absolutely right. Not a lot of people were podcasting back then. You had to be somewhat geeky. Things are nowhere near as easy as they are today.
No way. Yeah. It was so hard back then. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we had to burn our own feeds, and it was insane. But I mean, technology grew, and more people started asking if I would help them with their show. And I was in sales. I was a full-time commissioned sales rep. And I'm like, there might be something to this. Let me hang a shingle. And next thing I knew, I was signing a lease for a studio. I had a whole 140 square feet. Since then, we've moved down the street to 1,200 square feet.
Nice.
Have a much more comfortable setup. And it was our aim back then to help people tell their story. And that's kind of the genesis of Sitch Radio.
Yeah. And so I saw that the Sitch Radio, and then also the Countables Network. I was curious about that. All that kind of like definitely stems from where you started. But I was interested in the Countables Network because I felt like that was something, it's a fun idea. I think right now communities online are big, and you always want to feel a part of something. And I think that's a great thing. A lot of people just don't think about it either, about joining an online community and really like having people there to like support you and doing what you're doing.
6 years ago, when I opened the studio, I was looking, I had a lot of questions. How do you handle these types of situations? Where can I find coaching or mentorship to help me get over these hurdles? And the closest thing I could find to it was $1,200 a month. And there was no way I could pull that. So I learned the hard way. I'm excellent at failing. I've done so probably in every way that's possible, learning the hard way. But back then I had this pad of paper, it was back then, and it's titled The Idea Bucket, was to start a network to help online entrepreneurs, small businesses grow together. So it's finally here, and it's called the Accountables Network, and we can come together. We have weekly meetings. I have a blog writers cohort and a podcasters cohort, and then the original Accountables cohort, where there's 6 members in that cohort right now, all various backgrounds.
Cool.
And that really blends to the types of mentorship and help we get from each other. So it's been fun. It's been awesome.
Yeah. And with the network, cause I'm out here in LA, you're very close to, you're out there in OC, and it's always hard to find people, doing similar things as you, and I'm in LA. So there's a lot of actors, a lot of people doing that, but not a lot of people maybe in the business world. And I feel like a lot of times now the business world is focus mainly online. So it's
Right.
harder to meet a lot of people. I definitely would like to join afterwards because I think it'd be great just to chat with people. And that's kind of why I started this podcast too, just to meet other business founders and operating businesses. What are kind of, a lot of people out there are listening and like, okay, I want to start something like this, or I want to go do a podcast or start a business. What are kind of like the economics of some of the people that are in the network or in the group? What are they doing to driving that revenue in the podcasting world or even in their own business? Because I think, listen, there's a lot of people, I'm sure you listen to a lot of people that are like the Joe Rogans and, the Call Me Daddy shows. They're making millions of dollars. But I
Right.
know there's podcasts out there that are generating enough revenue to where it's like, hey, I don't have to work my full-time job. I can make this thing my job and live pretty comfortably in kind of like a lifestyle business. How do you see people in your network doing?
You know, the ones that have a plan and or take advantage of the lessons I've learned
Mm-hmm.
do pretty well. One of the first shows we started once I opened a studio was called EM Weekly. And it was so micro niched to emergency managers. Now, these were the people that were responding to hurricanes and floods and natural disasters. And episode 3, we had our first sponsor. We were averaging 36 downloads an episode a month. And part of that, I want to say, had to do with my salesmanship.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't sell an audience, so I sold the vision.
Yeah.
And having a paid sponsor on
Yeah.
episode 3 was just, we thought we hit it big. That show grew to only about 800 downloads an episode. But because of the niche it was in, we were making at our heyday $64,000 a year off one show,
Wow.
which was about 4 hours worth of work a week.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's identifying that niche, and it's not being scared to ask. It's not being afraid of putting together a media package. You can't concern yourself with what others might think.
Yeah. It's funny because, I, in high school and then college, I worked at a radio station and I felt like I saw the last like heyday of terrestrial radio, like the morning shows, Howard Stern. I was with, Bubba the Love Sponge out in Tampa. So like all these guys. And what I realized was it was a two-sided, job, right? Like you had not only had to do the creative and entertainment side, but you also had to do the sales side.
Right.
And I think a lot of times people getting into, the podcasting world, they don't think of the sales side. And I think that's a big aspect of it, especially because there is no real platform. I mean, I think there are a few out there, but you're probably not going to make a lot of money unless you're doing it by yourself. But the sales aspect of it really does feel like a huge aspect of it these days, especially finding people to sponsor your podcast. Where have you found the best, I guess, areas of the internet to find people to sponsor podcasts, or even some people in the network or at the studio?
It's that old school sales research. I have an audience or a product that would be perfect for company XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to find out where they are, who are the decision makers. I'm going to make some phone calls. I'm going to send some emails, and I'm going to go find them and sell them on my show. In the day of dynamic ad insertion, it's an easy way to click a button and make some money.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have an infrastructure and you're actively soliciting companies and pitching your audience to them, you can do so much better than, Casper mattress, obviously the industry
or
joke.
Audible. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there isn't a place for them. However, we've done business with some great companies. We met our metrics time and time again. And it's such a fulfilling experience when you're the one selling it and when you're the one creating the content. Your hands are in every aspect of it. And it's just heartwarming at the end of the day that you're helping this company achieve their goals because of what you built on the back end.
How did you get to the size and scale you are now with, 1,200 square feet of studio space? How did it all come to be? Because obviously I feel like every podcaster has a dream of like having a studio and all these people and different shows going. How did you get there?
A lot of top ramen. I've been, bootstrapped the entire time. I haven't taken a dime of investor money. Every time I had the opportunity to improve cameras, improve lighting, improve anything, that money went back into the company instead of going on vacation or
Yeah.
taking my wife out, as she reminds me often. However, I've built this. I think it's a really cool environment. It's relaxed. Given my background of being a United States Marine, running rescue ambulance for 911 in LA County, I understand stress. I understand life and death. And here I get to walk in and work with awesome creators and create.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no stress here. Yeah, we have deadlines and we have hiccups and we have troubles, but at the end of the day, we're creating a piece of content. No one's dying. No one's bleeding out. And I try to convey that. I have employees now. I work with Cal State Fullerton with an internship program. So we have college students coming through every semester to get their hands, into the meat of things.
Yeah.
From social media marketing to advertising to running the boards and producing shows. And on a good day, I can sit back and meet with awesome people like yourself.
Yeah.
And they're out there keeping the engines going, which is awesome. But it's a lot of hard work. There is nothing easy about, the one thing people are like, well, how much does it cost? I'm like, the first thing that comes to my mind is I didn't budget appropriately for cabling. Do you know how many hundreds of dollars in cables that I've had to buy alone? It's incredible.
Yeah.
But it's been a labor of love. And along the way, I have not come to work once in the last 6 years going, I got to go to work today.
Yeah.
I love every single day of it.
What are some of the like, I know in the podcast world, I know a lot of people want to start podcasts. And I think that's also something a lot of people, might be listening to this show about. They want to start businesses, but in the end, I think a podcast is a business and people do want to make money from it. What are kind of some tips you can give people? Because I don't think I've ever given any tips to start a podcast because I just enjoy it. It's like very nerdy to me. Like I have like my little setup here and my microphone and all this, but you don't need it all. Like that's what I know. You could start with your phone and record and just put audio out. But what are some things that you would tell somebody if they were starting a podcast today?
Ignore all the shiny lights and objects.
Yeah.
Like you were just saying, don't worry about microphone. So many people are like, I'm going to start a podcast, and they go drop $300 to $1,200 on equipment. And then, I'm buying it at pennies on the dollar off of Facebook Marketplace because they couldn't see it through.
Yeah.
Start with a paper and pen and come up with your values. What are your core values that you want to lean on in starting your show? Once you understand that, write an internal mission statement. This is not a public document. This is, yes, I want to generate revenue. I would love to replace my day-to-day income. But what are you going to provide to your audience?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to give to them free of charge or, on a tiered subscription level now that's going to improve their lives? That's going to take pain away from them. Once you understand that, don't worry about your show title. Don't worry about your show description. Start making a list of episode ideas. These are working titles, if you will. And if you get to number 7 and you start struggling, it's time to reevaluate your values and that mission statement. When I run new podcasters through this drill and I'm stopping them at 30, 32 episodes, 40 episodes, it's like, okay, there's plenty of meat on this bone now.
Yeah.
Now we can start building episodes out. Let's start with titles and descriptions and talking points. Then we're going to take that cell phone that we all have and we're going to practice. We're going to push record and we're going to pretend we're doing a podcast. and you're going to record 2 or 3 episodes. Yes, they're going to be rough. They'll probably never see the light of day. And then you're going to share them with a group like the Accountables and or your close circle of true friends that aren't going to tell you it's great, that are going to go, what are you thinking? That are going to provide constructive criticism and build on that. And once you feel like you really have something that people are going to value, now it's time to figure out, how are we going to properly record this meeting?
Yeah.
And
it's funny because I've told friends, like, people want to start podcasts. I would say record 2 or 3, see if it's any good. Or if you can't even record 3 and you're just like, oh, after 2, I was like, this sucks. Because a lot of people do that. They start a podcast and they'll like go 5 episodes in. And you're like, you know what? Like, not for me. Like, you spend 5 weeks doing that and you're like, it's over. And it happens a lot because it is a lot different than you think it is when you actually get to it.
It is. And you have to love the content.
Yeah.
And when you put your audience first, which is a must, if you're going to have a successful show, every decision you make is this good for my audience? If it is, it's an easy yes. Mm-hmm. Does it support my values? Does it support my mission statement? Then it's a definite yes. At any point of that mental exercise, no, this isn't going to be great for my audience, but it's going to put a few dollars in my pocket. That's the wrong road to start down. If you put your audience first, you're always going to come out a winner. But you have to love the content that you're producing. You have to enjoy producing it. You don't have to enjoy the editing. You can outsource that. You can find people on Fiverr that will do it a relative good job, inexpensively, and with a quick turn. You can work with a studio like mine or the many. I mean, you probably drive by 15 studios if you were to leave your office and come to mine. Yeah. You know, we're all over the place, but make sure the studio's a good fit, and it should be fun and supportive.
What are your thoughts on? I'm very much, I feel like I come from such an old school because I was like taught by like old school radio professionals, and the only thing they ever edited was if they have to pre-tape kind of an interview. But it was always live to air. And I'm a big, like, I love live to air. Like, maybe I'll put a little intro music, little outro music, maybe a little ad cut here or there. Yep. What are your thoughts about just like the simple editing? Because I'm all about that. I know some people that will edit every little hum and it and but and silence. And I'm like, I don't know if that's actually a podcast anymore. It's like a narrative structure of something. But what are your thoughts about like editing processes, I guess?
I love live to tape. I love live. The show we just did was live.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better. You cannot fake or rehearse that energy.
Yeah.
When it's live, it is what it is. And the beautiful thing about podcasting, I can check an explicit button if I go off on a tangent. And I can warn my audience up front that, look, language gets a little harsh here, or subject matter gets a little harsh here. There is nothing better than the live energy. And to light editing, absolutely. Some of my customers are corporate, so they want this polished piece of content, which is fine. That supports their mission. 99% of the podcasts, if you record live to tape and rebroadcast, or however you plan on doing your distribution, that's your audience knows you're being authentic. Mm-hmm. They know they're getting the real you, and they're going to connect with you that much faster.
Yeah.
So a big fan.
Yeah. It's very true. Cause you can hear, cause I love a good long podcast, a few hours long, and it hasn't been edited. Maybe there's like a bleep or two here. Like you can't say that, but it is something about that. And some of the produced ones, maybe if it's like a story, like Serial or something like that, where it has to be edited because you've recorded hundreds of hours of audio and you need to get it out here. What are some of the kind of the tools you use just day to day if somebody was starting some software or recording software or even a microphone that you can recommend? I mean, I'm pretty sure you're using a good one over there, but just for people, if they have any tiers of pricing, you could throw out some different things for people.
Yeah, you know what? We actually started our studio with the ATR 2100s, and they're still in my lineup for field work. If we have to leave the studio, because I can beat a coyote to death with it, plug it in, and it's still going to work.
Yeah.
They're just solid. I'm in a Shure right now.
Yep.
The studio, I've replaced all of these older Shures with a Shure you're using, and
Yep.
I love that microphone.
Yeah, it's a good one. I like that you can also kind of take it on the road and plug it in USB and just be like, all right, it's working. Yeah, it's a lot. It's come such, I mean, honestly, I felt like the hardest period of podcasting was like from 2007 to 2014 because there was no software or anything made for podcasting. Right. It was just like, yeah, you got to use like music equipment or you got to use this and that. And yeah, but yeah, this is a great mic.
When the Rode Pod Procaster.
Yeah, I'm actually using that right now. I have like soundboard and everything integrated in. It's great.
Yeah, when it came out, I heard through the grapevine that Zoom was coming out with a small built for podcasters board. And we're always been a Zoom house from the H1s through, I think we're rocking H6s now for field work. And I'm like, you know what? Zoom's been reliable. It's been trustworthy for me. I had the opportunity to play with a Rodecaster and was like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
What's Zoom going to have? And when I got my hands on a Zoom board, I went, okay, it's not as cool looking.
Yeah.
But it provides some awesome functionality. Battery operated in the field. I can record on board and or pass through. The price point was about the same. And
I just want to make it clear for you, you're not talking Zoom, the online platform. You're the handheld recording devices that have been around. Yeah.
Right. So we're using L8s, but that has been a good piece of kit just because of the versatility. I hate recommending a piece of equipment that's good for one thing, like this microphone here. It's the Shure.
Yeah, one of the only USB one I think they sell, or maybe it's like this tier down from the one that like Joe Rogan and everybody else uses. Yeah.
This is the one Rogan uses.
Oh, that's the one Rogan. Okay, yeah.
But it's XLR only. I have to have a cloud lifter. I have to have an audio interface. It's a good microphone, but it's not as versatile. But I got them on a barter. So, you know, I did what I did. That's why I went with the Shures in the studio that you're using, because it is XLR or USB. It doesn't need phantom power. It's more versatile. And when it comes to software, I like that same aspect. You know, we have the Adobe suite here.
Yeah.
We can do anything and everything we need to do with audio. 9 times out of 10, we might throw something in Descript because of the versatility.
Powerful,
it's a powerful tool.
It's wild.
It truly is.
The AI and everything that you can do with it. I'm actually recording. I don't know if you've seen this platform before, Riverside FM. It has, I didn't use it for maybe a year after it came out, and I was playing around with it. I'm like, all the features aren't there yet. Recently, I just switched over to it. The features inside of it now, and we're recording this, you know, in a browser over the internet. The picture quality is super clear. It's going to be even higher def when I download the video clips individually in the audio.
Absolutely.
But they have AI built into it, and it gives me a transcript and timestamps for everything we spoke about. And I'm like, this is great. Like, I had to pay somebody to do this before to like go through it all. So things are changing, and it's changing for the better too. Cause like, this is $19 a month and it's doing all this for me.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, I've used Riverside. We have Squadcast and StreamYard currently.
Yeah, I like StreamYard for like live broadcasting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we kept the StreamYard license, was it does a great job for live.
Yeah, it really does. Cross-platform, comments, all coming into one spot. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great tool. When it comes to audio editing, I mean, we started using Audacity back in the day.
Yeah.
We grew up with Audacity. And I was at the Outlier.
You had to like install random plugins and like, I need an MP3. I got to like download this thing to make it an MP3. Yeah.
Download the lame plugin.
Yeah.
I was at the Outlier Podcast Festival. This must have been 6-7 years ago now. And I saw a 3-minute demo of a product called Hindenburg. And when my eyes just lit up, I bought the license the day I got home. And we've been in Hindenburg for audio editing. Okay. It doesn't do video, but it's built for that field reporter to lay something down, edit quickly, and beam up to the studio.
Cool.
And it doesn't have all the bells and whistles like Audition does.
Yeah.
You know, where you get overwhelmed by tools and toolbars, and it's what you need for audio, get it done, get it uploaded, and you're good. And that's been the primary audio editing tool. We'll even strip audio from video, edit it in Hindenburg,
Oh,
re-sync it with video for fine tuning and things of that nature. The tools I recommend are the tools that you're going to be able to learn comfortably, especially when it comes to audio and video editing. If you're gonna start off, grab a license to Descript,
yeah,
because you can edit text.
it's
It's going
great.
to edit the audio and the video. You have some AI there. It's a great starting place, and I believe it. Squadcast just bought Descript not too
Yeah,
long ago,
I think they're all
so
in one now. Yeah.
they're all in one now.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm very like I'm pretty skilled in Final Cut. I use only mostly like Mac products, so like I've been a big GarageBand guy just for my audio. But I did find going to Descript, I almost had to learn how to re-edit because it was so different. It wasn't so if you've never edited before, I think it's great to go into and learn with Descript because it is very focused on more of the text than the video, which is interesting part of it. But yeah, Descript is great. You just got it's that learning curve that took me a while. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do this in Final Cut in like 10 minutes instead of an hour of trying to figure out how exactly this is all done. But yeah, there's the platforms and, software. Everything has just gotten so much better and cheaper too. And now it's just like getting it out there, like marketing your show, advertising. Where do you find kind of the best spots to advertise and market your shows? Is that more cross-platform with some of your own brands, or how do you do that?
What's always worked best for me is word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done everything from paid ads to it's kind of hit and miss when it comes to online.
Yeah.
Are you sending the right message to the right audience on the right platform at the right time? That from your marketing experience.
Yeah.
And it can be a challenge. We worked with the show Murder with My Husband. When they were starting out, she loves true crime. He hates it. She's reading this show, and his reactions are phenomenal because he's like, what the, but the majority of true crime consumers are older females. They went to a craft fair, bought a table, hung up a banner that says, "Do you watch Lifetime?" And they had QR codes on their table.
That's funny.
And they were educating people about podcasts and podcasting, scanning a QR code, downloading it to their phone.
It's a good idea.
Grew beautifully. I'm like, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And that helped them grow to the status they are now. And it's their full-time job is that podcast, which is phenomenal.
That's cool. Yeah, it's very much knowing your audience and where to kind of advertise it. With I have a little dog company, and we used to do a lot of flea markets and farmers markets, and you really get an understanding of what your audience wants too. You get to talk to somebody instead of just like putting out content and maybe getting some random comments from some people that just have no time on their hands to comment some negative things. It's kind of nice to talk to people that are like super interested.
Yeah. And if your audience is of the Facebook era, starting a group, because you get to somewhat own that real estate, number one. But number two, we had a show on Sjogren's syndrome, and they had a group that was growing pretty well, growing more so than the podcast. All we did was add one question to the questions you get to ask people before they join. And it was, do you listen to our podcast? And the choices were yes, no, or what's a podcast?
Oh, no.
And now we had answers to names, and we could, a form email, send it out to them, educate them about the show. If they don't listen, educate them on what a podcast is, if that's the way they responded. And the show spikes.
That's awesome.
And it's just that one simple little, hey, this is doing better than the show. What can we do to match that energy? And that one question matched it.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because it's very something that somebody would think of that's not a part of the show, and just, hey, you're missing this one step. Like maybe people would check out your podcast. And then when you're in it, sometimes you just don't realize like, oh yeah, if I just change this one thing, it could dramatically change downloads and listens to my podcast. And that's a big part of marketing. I feel like it's just an experiment all the time. All you're doing is experimenting to see what works, what doesn't work.
always, if you want to start a podcast and you're uncomfortable A/B testing, or you don't like analytics, and you you need to find somebody
Yeah.
that does, because when you live in analytics as much as I do, you can identify these things so much quicker
Hmm.
and respond to them accordingly and watch the numbers change almost in real time. And it's for me, it's fun. I'm
Yeah.
kind of geek out on the numbers a little bit,
Sure.
but it's cool to go, hey, this little tweak did this. This was awesome.
Yeah.
What
It's
can we
fun.
do to pour gas on this?
Yeah. Where do you see, next, I could say 10 years, but let's go 5 years. I feel like things are moving quick. Next 5 years of podcasting. I know a lot of big deals have just been, Joe Rogan and Caller Daddy, and a lot of exclusives have no longer been exclusive on Spotify.
Right.
Where do you see the podcasting world going? Is it trending more video, trending more audio? Is it going to become just radio and it's going to be taken over by, whatever it's called, whatever radio companies are still out there?
No, I think video is we're going to see a lot of growth in video. However, people are going to demand it, but people aren't going to use it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to play on YouTube or Vimeo or wherever you're distributing your show, and they're quickly going to cover that browser tab up and do something else.
Yeah.
But if you don't take advantage of what video, especially YouTube, has to offer, you're missing out. That's the second largest search engine in the world. You want to be found on YouTube. Where I see podcasts going, I'm really excited about the RSS 2.0 and the hard work they've been doing the last 4 or 5 years now. And the fact that they are doing their best to keep the podcaster in control of their content, and the way that it interacts with the blockchain, and your listeners, your audience, can boost you with Bitcoin if they see fit, or
Interesting.
pay you per minute listened. It's great. And they're working on cross-platform commenting, and we're talking podcast players, which
That's
would
cool.
be phenomenal.
Yeah.
If you're unfamiliar with RSS 2.0, Adam Curry and Dave, I think his name is, Adam Curry's the podfather. He was the first guy to have a podcast. They're the ones kind of spearheading it and steering the ship, if you will.
And will everybody, because I haven't heard of RSS 2.0, is it going to be integrated in similar, like, Apple Podcast and all these other platforms? Are they going to adopt it, or is it just something that they're trying to push to make the new standard?
So there's a handful of hosting companies and podcast players that have fully adopted it. They are working really hard at adding every single feature as fast as possible. Now, I'm not sure who you host with. However, whomever you host with, you've probably seen some functionality of, you can have chapter images now.
Yeah.
That's an RSS 2.0 feature. You can link to your transcript. You can have an SRT file for closed captioning. Those are all 2.0 features. So the majority of the podcast hosting companies are slowly adding functionality to their current platform. The players are doing their best at accepting all this this new functionality, and it's not cheap. You have an awesome player like Apple Podcasts, and now you've got to retool to add transcripts and to add SRT or closed caption files. It's an expense.
Yeah.
Check out an app called Fountain. I don't work for them nor any other company I've talked about today, but it's a fun app to play with. There's some shows that are RSS 2.0 function rich that I listen to on Fountain. Other shows I listen to on Apple. It's kind of cool to open up the show and go, wow, Bill's a guest. Let me click Bill's name.
Yeah.
And it opens up to their bio picture and their bio.
Interesting.
That's cool.
And
links to them right from the show notes, which is really cool.
Yeah, I've been such a Pocket Cast guy for my podcast player, and it's always so hard to go to another platform because all the functionalities are so different. Like, I don't even listen on Apple Podcasts or even the Spotify. Like, when I was listening to Joe Rogan over there, it's not a good functionality on the Spotify app.
Some apps do much better than others.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Brian, I appreciate you coming on today. If you want to plug some of the spots, everybody can find you, your community, your website. Go ahead, shout out wherever everybody can find you.
Well, I appreciate that. And again, I want to thank you for inviting me on your
Of
show.
course.
This has been awesome. Check us out on the Accountables. You can find me there if you'd like help with podcasting and or utilizing our coaching services to get whatever content medium out there that you're working on creating, and or join the Accountables group. You'll have someone holding your feet to the fire. That's for sure.
Cool. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
See ya.